South Park has destroyed more celebrity careers in 20 minutes than most scandals do in years. Every A-lister, every ego, every untouchable icon has been dragged through the mud by just two guys with construction paper and zero fear. That's why today on the channel, I'm breaking down a list of the top 10 celebrities South Park has made fun of and exactly how brutal each of these takedowns actually was. Starting with the one that literally changed television history, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise didn't just get made fun of, he got absolutely annihilated in what's widely considered the most controversial episode South Park has ever made. And I can prove it. The episode is called Trapped in the Closet, and on the surface, it's about Stan joining Scientology. Stan takes a personality test, scores off the charts on his Thetan levels, and the Church of Scientology declares him the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard himself. Cool. But then Tom Cruise shows up. Cruise sneaks into Stan's bedroom, asks him what he thinks of his acting, and Stan gives an honest answer. You're okay. Not as good as Leonardo DiCaprio, or Gene Hackman, or the guy who played Napoleon Dynamite. That's it. That's all it takes for Tom Cruise to have a complete meltdown, lock himself in Stan's closet, and refuse to come out. Here's where it gets dark. The entire episode becomes a running joke about Tom Cruise literally hiding in a closet while everyone begs him to come out of the closet. Nicole Kidman shows up, the police show up, John Travolta shows up, and also ends up in the closet. Then R. Kelly shows up singing about the whole situation, and he ends up in the closet too. And through all of this, South Park is simultaneously exposing the actual beliefs of Scientology with a disclaimer that reads, "This is what Scientologists actually believe." Because the Xenu story is so insane, it sounds like something they made up. But here's the kicker. The episode ends with Stan calling out Scientology as a scam, and Tom Cruise threatens to sue him. Stan looks directly at the camera and shouts, "Go ahead, sue me, I dare you." Then the credits roll with every single name listed as John Smith or Jane Smith to protect the cast and crew from lawsuits. That's not hyperbole. The creators knew Scientology and Tom Cruise would come for them, so they literally hid everyone's identity in the credits. The real-world consequences were immediate and severe. Comedy Central pulled the episode from rebroadcast schedules. Reports claimed Tom Cruise threatened to pull out of Mission Impossible 3 to tank the episode. Isaac Hayes, the voice of Chef and a Scientologist, quit the show entirely, though his son later revealed Hayes had suffered a stroke, and Scientologists made the decision for him. The Church of Scientology's executive Mike Render wrote memos planning legal action before realizing their case was too weak. This wasn't just a joke. This was cultural warfare, and it changed how America talked about Scientology forever. But if you think one closet joke is brutal, wait until you hear about the rapper who couldn't understand the simplest joke on earth, Kanye West. In 2009, making fun of Kanye West was basically a national sport, and South Park created what might be the perfect Kanye episode. Here's the thing. The episode Fish Sticks is built on the simplest joke imaginable. Jimmy creates it at school. Do you like fish sticks? Do you like putting fish sticks in your mouth? Then you're a gay fish. It's a stupid play on words. Fish sticks, fish dicks. Everyone on Earth gets it instantly and finds it hilarious. Everyone except Kanye West. Kanye appears in the episode completely unable to understand why people keep calling him a gay fish. He insists over and over that he's a genius and the voice of a generation, getting progressively more angry as the joke spreads worldwide. People are laughing, Kanye is fuming, and he literally cannot figure out what the punchline means. But wait, Kanye goes to a doctor demanding proof he's not a fish. The doctor examines him and confirms he has no gills, therefore cannot be a fish. Kanye treats this like a massive victory. He even rewrites history in his own mind, convincing himself that he invented the fish sticks joke and everyone stole it from him. Carlos Mencia catches strays in this too, also trying to claim credit for the joke. The episode perfectly captures Kanye's legendary inability to take a joke or admit he's wrong about anything. It's a one-note premise, but it works because it's Kanye. Literally any other person would figure out the joke in 5 seconds. But Kanye's ego is so massive, so impenetrable, that even the simplest wordplay becomes an impossible puzzle when it makes him the butt of the joke. Here's where it gets weird. The episode ends with Kanye finally understanding the joke, but in the most Kanye way possible. He accepts that he must be a gay fish, strips down, and swims into the ocean to live with other fish. The final scene shows him underwater, completely at peace as a literal gay fish, grinding up on other fish and living his truth. Kanye's actual response to the episode was peak Kanye. He wrote a long, all-caps rant online defending himself, then later referenced the episode in his song Gorgeous with the line about being a gay fish. He couldn't let it go, which somehow proved South Park's entire point about his ego. But at least Kanye was only called a fish. The next celebrity got turned into something way worse. Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand has the distinction of being the only celebrity Trey Parker and Matt Stone openly admit they genuinely hate. Not satirize, not poke fun at, actually hate. The episode Mecha Streisand aired in 1998 during South Park's first season, and the creators have stated on record that they tried to make Streisand's portrayal as sick and disgusting as possible. Most celebrity parodies on South Park are all just in good fun, according to Parker and Stone. But when it comes to Barbra Streisand, they've made it clear. This was personal. Here's why. After Colorado passed Amendment 2, a constitutional amendment that forbid homosexuals from being recognized as a protected class, Streisand made a public statement calling Coloradans a bunch of hicks, and vowed never to visit Colorado again. Parker and Stone grew up in Colorado. They took it personally, and they responded by turning her into a giant mechanical monster that destroys their hometown. In the episode, Cartman discovers an ancient artifact called the Triangle of Zinthar during a field trip. Streisand tracks down the boys and demands the triangle, revealing she needs it to complete the Diamond of Pantheos and transform into Mecha Streisand. When the boys refuse, she kidnaps them, ties them up, and tortures them with medieval devices and her off-tone singing until Cartman breaks and gives up the triangle. Here's where it gets dark. Streisand combines the two triangles and transforms into a giant mechanical dinosaur, basically Mechagodzilla with Streisand's hair on top. She goes on a rampage, destroying South Park in full Japanese kaiju movie style. Buildings explode, people scream. Mecha Streisand terrorizes the entire town with chainsaw hands and fire beams shooting from her mouth. The only way to stop her is when Robert Smith from The Cure shows up, transforms into a giant moth like Mothra, and punches the Diamond of Pantheos out of her giant nose. That's right, her weakness is her enormous nose, which Parker specifically called out because he finds it as obnoxious as her singing voice. But wait, the episode broke viewership records at the time, pulling in 5.4 million viewers and setting a South Park record that stood until 2001. And Streisand's response proved Parker and Stone right about her. She criticized the show in interviews, saying it adds to the cynicism and negativity in our culture, especially in children, and wondering if it makes young girls think any woman who dares to accomplish something is the incarnation of self-centeredness and greed. South Park's response to her criticism? They created Spooky Vision in a later episode, putting Streisand's face in all four corners of the screen as a Halloween special. They literally made her image synonymous with horror. But if you think turning someone into a mechanical dinosaur is brutal, the next guy got portrayed as something even more disturbing. Mel Gibson. South Park didn't just mock Mel Gibson, they accidentally predicted his entire public meltdown years before it happened. And that's not an exaggeration. The episode, The Passion of the Jew, aired in 2004, right when Mel Gibson's film The Passion of the Christ was causing massive controversy. Stan and Kenny go see the movie, hate it, and decide to travel to Gibson's house in Malibu to demand their $18 refund. Cool, seems reasonable. But when they get there, they discover Mel Gibson is completely, utterly, certifiably insane. Gibson answers the door, strips completely naked within seconds, and asks the boys to torture him. Not as a joke, he genuinely wants to be tortured. He's obsessed with it. When the boys refuse and try to leave, Gibson chases them through his mansion while wearing Braveheart blue face paint for absolutely no explained reason. Here's where it gets weird. Gibson follows Stan and Kenny all the way back to South Park, driving the tanker truck from the Road Warrior, still demanding the entire town torture him. He runs through the streets screaming about torture, completely unhinged, absolutely manic. At one point, he literally takes a shit on Cartman's face. The episode portrays him as a violent, masochistic lunatic who cannot function like a normal human being. But here's the kicker. This episode aired in 2004. Mel Gibson's DUI arrest where he went on an anti-Semitic rant didn't happen until 2006. His phone call meltdown with racial slurs came even later. South Park called it before any of the real incidents happened. They looked at Mel Gibson in 2004 and said this guy is unhinged when most of America still saw him as a respected director making religious films. The episode also tackles the controversy around The Passion of the Christ itself. Cartman becomes obsessed with the film and starts a Nazi-adjacent group inspired by its imagery, which is South Park's commentary on the movie's relationship with anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, Gibson's portrayal gets progressively more disturbing as the episode continues. This wasn't the most personally venomous celebrity takedown South Park has done, but it might be the most prophetic. They captured Gibson's erratic, violent, self-destructive tendencies years before the public saw them. The man they portrayed as an insane sadist in 2004 turned out to be exactly that in real life. And looking back, the weird part isn't that South Park made him look crazy. The weird part is how accurate they were about what kind of crazy he actually was. The obsession with violence, the complete lack of self-control, the unpredictability Unpredictable aggression, all of it showed up in Gibson's real-life incidents later, but at least Gibson only got called insane. The next celebrity got a portrayal so bizarre that even the creators think they went too far. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey got one of the most absolutely insane celebrity portrayals in South Park history, and the creators openly admit it was a disaster. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. The episode A Million Little Fibers from 2006 was supposed to parody the James Frey memoir scandal. Frey wrote A Million Little Pieces, Oprah promoted it on her book club, then it turned out to be fiction, and Oprah publicly destroyed him on her show. South Park decides to recreate this with Towelie, the stoner talking towel, writing a fake memoir, and getting on Oprah's show. That's the premise. Makes sense so far. But then South Park does something nobody expected. Oprah's vagina and asshole become main characters in the episode. Not metaphorically, literally. Her vagina, named Mingy, speaks with an English accent. Her anus, named Gary, speaks with a Welsh accent. And they're both sentient beings who feel neglected because Oprah is such a workaholic that she never pays attention to them anymore. Let me explain. While Towelie is dealing with his memoir controversy, Mingy and Gary are having their own subplot where they conspire to get Oprah fired because she doesn't spend time with them. They call Geraldo Rivera and leak the information that Towelie is actually a towel, not a human. When the truth breaks and Oprah turns on Towelie, leading an angry mob to kill him, Mingy decides he's had enough. Here's where it gets dark. Mingy pulls a revolver out of Oprah's pants, shoots a cop, and takes the entire studio audience hostage at a bank. He makes demands through a police negotiator. I want a chopper and a jet waiting at the airport to take us to France. Plus, we need some fresh knickers right away. The police bring in a crisis negotiator who tries to reason with the most unstable vagina I've ever talked to. A police sniper eventually shoots Oprah in the crotch, killing Gary. Mingy, devastated by the death of his mate, turns the gun on himself and commits suicide. Towelie saves the day by sliding under the bank doors with his inherent flatness and freeing the hostages. Nobody knows what to make of this episode. Not the fans, not even Trey Parker and Matt Stone. In the DVD commentary, Parker straight up says, "That did not turn out well. I had higher hopes for that." Matt Stone calls it weird on top of weird, with weird in the middle, and says he'd erase it if he could. They admitted the two storylines should have been split into separate episodes, because putting them together just made people think, what the fuck is this crap? This is the only episode in South Park history where none of the main boys appear. No Stan, Kyle, Cartman, or Kenny. Just Towelie and Oprah's talking genitals having a hostage crisis. The episode was supposed to be their bank episode, partially animated in advance to give the staff time off, but they had to scrap most of it and start over because it wasn't working. But at least Oprah's portrayal was so weird, it became forgettable. The next celebrity got a treatment that's still talked about decades later. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's South Park appearance is both tragic and disturbing, which somehow makes it the perfect portrayal of the king of pop in his final years. Here's the thing. The episode, The Jeffersons doesn't actually call him Michael Jackson. The character is named Mr. Jefferson, a wealthy man who moves to South Park with his son Blanket. But nobody is fooled. It's obviously Michael Jackson, and South Park isn't subtle about it. Mr. Jefferson has a face that's literally falling off from plastic surgery. He speaks in a high-pitched voice constantly. He's obsessed with childhood and wants to experience being a kid because he never had a real childhood himself. He forms an instant bond with Cartman and the other boys, inviting them over to play and acting like he's one of them. But wait, the episode walks a very careful line between sympathetic and disturbing. On one hand, Mr. Jefferson genuinely just wants the innocent childhood he was robbed of. He's building amusement park rides in his backyard, playing games, laughing with the kids. He seems harmless, maybe even kind of sad. On the other hand, all the pedophile jokes are right there under the surface. When Kenny sees Blanket in danger and saves him, it's because Mr. Jefferson's negligence and obsession with childhood almost gets his own son killed. Here's where it gets complicated. The police racially profile the Jefferson family, assuming they're criminals because they're new and wealthy. But here's the twist. Mr. Jefferson is a white-presenting black man whose skin color has changed from all the bleaching. South Park uses this to tackle racial profiling, while also making jokes about Jackson's appearance. The cops literally can't figure out what race the Jeffersons are supposed to be. The plastic surgery jokes are relentless. Mr. Jefferson's nose falls off mid-conversation. His face is melting. He looks like a horror movie character, but acts like a children's TV show host. It's uncomfortable in exactly the way South Park intended. But here's the kicker. The episode ends with Mr. Jefferson dangling Blanket from a balcony, recreating one of Michael Jackson's most infamous real-life moments. Kyle realizes that Mr. Jefferson is broken, that he needs professional help, and that his obsession with reclaiming childhood is destroying his ability to actually parent his own child. South Park released released this in 2004, during Jackson's legal troubles and peak tabloid scrutiny. Everything is here. The plastic surgery, the skin bleaching, the Neverland obsession, the pedophilia accusations, the bizarre parenting. The episode treats Jackson as both a victim of his own childhood trauma and someone whose dysfunction makes him dangerous. It's sympathetic and horrifying at the same time, which might be the most accurate portrayal of Michael Jackson ever put on television. The tragedy is that Mr. Jefferson genuinely doesn't understand why people are worried about him spending time with children. He sees himself as innocent, as one of them, when everyone else sees the nightmare he's become. But if you think making someone's face fall off is brutal, the next celebrity got reduced to something even worse than a monster. Bono. Bono didn't get called a piece of shit by South Park, he got revealed to actually be a piece of shit, and I mean that literally. The episode More Crap from 2007 starts as a Randy Marsh story. Randy takes what he believes is the world's largest crap, measures it at exactly 8.5 Courics, South Park's unit of measurement based on Katie Couric, and claims the world record. He's celebrated, he's proud, he's convinced he's made history, but then Bono shows up. Bono challenges Randy's record, insisting that he's actually the record holder. He produces photographic evidence of a crap he took years ago that supposedly beats Randy's. Randy is devastated. His one moment of glory, stolen by Bono. The episode seems to be about Randy's ego and obsession with being the best at something, anything, even taking the world's largest shit. Here's where it gets weird. The twist comes late in the episode when it's revealed that Bono doesn't just hold the record for the world's largest crap. Bono is the world's largest crap. He's not a human being. He's literally a piece of shit that was born, adopted by human parents, and raised as a person. He weighs in at exactly 8.6 Courics, making him the record holder by default because he himself is a living, breathing piece of excrement. Let me explain why this matters. The episode reveals that Bono's entire personality, his pathological need to be number one, comes from the fact that he's terrified of being number two. He can't feel whole unless he's holding records, winning awards, being celebrated as the best. It's not ego for ego's sake, it's existential terror. If he's number two at anything, it reminds him of what he actually is. This is the most brutal celebrity takedown in South Park history because it's not just an insult, it's a perfect visual metaphor for how Trey Parker and Matt Stone view Bono's entire public persona. The do-gooder attitude, the self-righteousness, the constant positioning as a moral authority while maintaining a massive ego, the tension between his humanitarian work and his relentless need for recognition. South Park looked at Bono and said, "This man is so full of himself that he's not even a person anymore. He's just shit in human form." The Katie Couric measurement system is its own joke, using a news anchor as the standard unit for measuring feces. But the real target is Bono's inability to just be normal. He has to be the biggest, the best, the most important at everything, even when the thing in question is completely meaningless. But here's the kicker. Bono's YouTube fame, his activism, his decades of influence, none of it matters in South Park's eyes. They reduced his entire legacy to one single visual gag that says everything they think about him in the most visceral way possible. Not a celebrity, not an activist, just the world's biggest piece of crap walking around in sunglasses. But at least Bono's treatment was a metaphor. The next guy got portrayed as a literal violent psychopath. Russell Crowe got turned into a one-joke character, and somehow that one joke is more devastating than most celebrities' entire takedowns. Here's the thing. In 2003, Russell Crowe was constantly in the news for getting into fights, bar brawls, physical altercations, aggressive behavior. The Gladiator star had a reputation for violence that followed him everywhere. South Park saw this and created Fightin' Around the World, a mock travel show that appears as a show within the show during the episode The New Terrence and Philip movie trailer. The premise is simple. Russell Crowe travels around the world with his talking tugboat friend named Tugger, and everywhere they go, Crowe randomly punches people in the face. That's it. That's the entire joke. And it keeps going, and going, and going. Crowe arrives in China. "Oi, you wanna go, mate?" Punches a Chinese person. Moves to Australia. "Oi, you wanna go?" Punches an Aboriginal. Every location follows the exact same pattern. Crowe walks up to random civilians, asks if they wanna go, then immediately assaults them regardless of their answer. Tugger, his only friend in the world, provides commentary in between the violence. Here's where it gets weird. The joke becomes funny, then annoying as it repeats too many times, then somehow loops back around to being funny again because of how committed South Park is to the the bit. It's a one-note premise executed with such relentless dedication that the repetition itself becomes the commentary. This episode aired right at the peak of Crow's fighting reputation. Every few weeks, there was another story about Russell Crowe getting into an altercation somewhere. The phone-throwing incident at a hotel where Crowe threw a phone at a concierge came later in 2005 and only proved South Park's point about his pattern of behavior. But wait, what makes this so brutal is how stupid South Park makes him look. Crowe isn't portrayed as a tough guy or a badass. He's portrayed as a violent idiot who can't control himself and has no friends except a talking boat. Every fight is unprovoked. Every punch is unnecessary. The exaggerated Australian accent, the catchphrase, the complete lack of self-awareness. It all paints Crowe as a man-child who thinks violence equals masculinity. The show-within-a-show format is genius because it allows South Park to repeat the joke endlessly without it feeling forced in the main episode. Fighting around the world exists as background noise while the boys try to watch the Terrence and Phillip movie trailer. But every time it cuts back to Crowe, he's punching someone new in a different country. And here's the kicker. South Park predicted Crowe's entire trajectory. The aggressive behavior, the incidents that kept happening, the pattern that would define his public image for years. They looked at Russell Crowe in 2003 and said, "This man's entire personality is violence and nothing else." They weren't wrong, but at least Crowe was portrayed as an adult with agency. The next celebrity got treated like a harmful virus infecting children, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton got absolutely destroyed during the peak of her fame, and her response to the episode proves she had no idea what was coming. Here's the thing. In 2004, Paris Hilton was everywhere. The sex tape had leaked. Her reality show was massive. "That's hot" was a catchphrase. She represented everything wrong with early 2000s tabloid culture. Famous for being famous, celebrated for doing nothing, worshipped by young girls who saw her wealth and lifestyle as aspirational. South Park saw this and created Stupid Spoiled Whore video playset. The episode shows every girl in South Park Elementary obsessed with emulating Paris Hilton. They're hosting Paris Hilton parties, acting like spoiled brats, wearing revealing clothes, talking about being rich and hot. The only holdout is Wendy, who sees Paris as a toxic influence and tries to warn everyone that this behavior is harmful. Nobody listens. The girls are too busy worshiping Paris. But wait, Paris Hilton herself shows up in South Park looking for a new pet. Not a dog, a person. She wants to buy Butters from his parents to replace her previous pet, which we learn committed suicide. That's right, Paris Hilton's dog killed itself to escape the misery of being owned by her. The episode shows the dog's suicide note and everything. Paris's parents agree to sell Butters for $250 million because they're terrible people. Paris dresses Butters in humiliating outfits, parades him around, treats him like an accessory. She's vapid, spoiled, proud of her wealth and promiscuity. The episode doesn't hold back, repeatedly using degrading terms to describe her and making it clear she represents everything shallow about celebrity culture. Here's where it gets dark. Mr. Slave, one of South Park's most outrageous characters, challenges Paris to a whore-off competition at the mall. The rules are simple. Whoever can be the bigger whore wins. Paris accepts because she's confident she'll win. The competition escalates, both of them performing increasingly inappropriate acts in public, until Mr. Slave defeats Paris in the final round. His winning move? He shoves Paris Hilton up his ass. Literally, she gets sucked up inside Mr. Slave and loses the competition by being consumed by someone who out-whored her. Before the episode aired, Paris said she was flattered to be featured on South Park. She told reporters that when people copy you, that's like the most flattering thing, and that she didn't care what people said because she'd just laugh about it. She clearly hadn't seen the episode yet. After it aired showing her dog committing suicide, losing a whore competition, and getting shoved up someone's ass, Paris was considerably less amused. But here's the kicker. The episode isn't really about Paris. It's about the culture that created her and the young girls being infected by it. Wendy's crusade against Paris is the emotional core. She's fighting to save her classmates from aspiring to be famous for nothing, to be celebrated for being spoiled and shallow. Paris is just the virus. The real problem is everyone who worships her. South Park released this during the absolute peak of Paris mania, when criticizing her felt almost countercultural. The episode was a direct attack on the famous for being famous era and the harmful message it sent to young people. But at least Paris Hilton was a relic of the 2000s. The final celebrity on this list proves South Park is still destroying A-listers in the 2020s. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. South Park proved they're still ruthless in 2023 with the most perfectly timed celebrity takedown in recent memory, and nobody saw it coming. The episode, The Worldwide Privacy Tour, aired in February 2023, right in the middle of peak Harry and Meghan media saturation. They'd done the Oprah interview. The Netflix documentary had just dropped. Harry's memoir, Spare, was everywhere, revealing intimate details about his life while claiming he just wanted to be left alone. South Park looked at this situation and said, "This is the most obvious hypocrisy we've ever seen." The episode features the Prince of Canada and his wife, who are obviously Harry and Meghan, but never named direct. They're on a worldwide privacy tour, traveling from town to town with massive signs that say, "We want privacy," while banging drums, hanging banners from buildings, and holding press conferences about how desperately they want privacy. Let me explain why this is brilliant. Kyle represents every single person who's tired of hearing about them. He tries to ignore the couple, go about his day, live his life, but the more he ignores them, the more offended they get. They follow him around town demanding he pay attention to them. They show up at his house, they interrupt his activities. When Kyle finally snaps and tells them he doesn't care about their problems, they act like victims. Here's where it gets dark. The episode captures the exact frustration everyone was feeling, but nobody was saying out loud. Harry and Meghan are ultra wealthy, ultra privileged people complaining about their difficult lives while doing literally everything possible to stay in the spotlight. The privacy tour framing is perfect because it exposes the core contradiction. You cannot demand privacy while giving interviews, writing memoirs, and producing documentaries about your private life. At one point in the episode, the prince has a moment of self-awareness. He realizes they could actually have the quiet, private life they claim to want if they just stop talking about themselves constantly. He turns to his wife, excited about this revelation. She's completely disinterested. The implication is clear. She doesn't actually want privacy. She wants attention while claiming to be a victim of attention. Reports after the episode aired claimed Meghan Markle was overwhelmed and distressed by the parody. Rumors circulated about potential legal action, though nothing ever materialized. Representatives shot down the lawsuit talk, but the fact that it was even discussed shows how accurately South Park hit the target. But here's the kicker. This episode is from 2023. South Park has been on the air since 1997, and they're still creating celebrity takedowns that dominate cultural conversation. The Prince Harry and Meghan parody became international news, sparked endless debates, and perfectly crystallized what millions of people were thinking but couldn't articulate. 26 years into their run, Trey Parker and Matt Stone proved they're still the most dangerous voice in entertainment. Nobody is safe. Nobody is too powerful. And absolutely nobody can escape South Park if they give the show even the slightest opening. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.